The Trump administration is under a fierce new attack by the left and the media following the resignation of Staff Secretary Rob Porter on Wednesday. Porter was accused of domestic violence by two ex-wives, something he denies. Now, some are calling for the resignation of Chief of Staff John Kelly, claiming he has known about the allegations for months. Today, the president urged everyone to withhold judgment until all the facts are known.
I found out about it recently, and I was surprised by it. But we certainly wish him well. It's a obviously tough time for him. He did a very good job when he was in the White House, and we hope he has a wonderful career, and hopefully he will have a great career ahead of him. He says he's innocent, and I think you have to remember that. He said very strongly yesterday that he's innocent.
But the Porter allegations are creating a feeding frenzy among the president's critics.
Senior White House officials knew about these accusations against Porter by his ex-wives, and they protected Porter, and they promoted Porter.
There were really several other ways that the White House could have gone, and the choices that were made by John Kelly and others are inexcusable.
They protect abusers. There's no way of getting around it. And I guess people will say, well, it doesn't matter. You can still be a good president. You can still do your job. No.
Any other White House, as soon as you would hear that, you would get rid of the person.
The president's reaction to this, although fully in character, is utterly repulsive.
And also developing tonight, a second White House staffer has resigned, speechwriter David Sorensen, after his ex-wife claimed he was violent during their marriage, a charge that Sorensen is denying. So let's explore this with Conservative Review television host Ali Stuckey and Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall. Thank you both for being here. Leslie, I want to start with you. How do you think that the president and the White House dealt with this situation?
Well, you know, Jason, they say sometimes it's not the crime, it's the cover-up. And I think that's the problem here. It was who knew what and when and why, or in this case, why wasn't something done about it. We do know that Kelly knew about this in the fall. We do know that this information was out there in the White House to the president's attorney back a year ago, and yet there was still not a thorough investigation. Nothing was done, and they were still going forward looking into possible high-level security clearance for Porter, for this individual. That's very troubling. Further troubling for me, Jason, as a woman, is that the president today wished an alleged accused abuser of women well and said nothing about the alleged victims. That is very troublesome for me.
Ali, what was your reaction to it when you saw this story and how the White House dealt with it?
Yeah, well, first of all, I take issues of domestic violence and allegations of domestic violence very seriously. I think we can all agree on that. I'm certainly not going to gloss over that simply because I voted for Donald Trump. However, I think that we can also all agree that this was simply a bad situation that the White House has already admitted that they mishandled, and it was a bad situation that people who work for the president should be held accountable for. However, I also think that it is completely dishonest and a little bit hypocritical of the liberal media to be issuing an indictment on the entire administration and the entire presidency for mishandling a situation in the same way that it was an indictment on the entirety of the Clinton campaign when she covered up for the sexually harassing faith advisor in 2008. This is not an indictment on Trump's entire presidency. So I find that hypocrisy from some members of the liberal media to be a little bit tired and very dishonest.
Now, Leslie, even Hillary Clinton, after the fact, came back and said, even though she had a report from her campaign manager that there was sexual harassment problems, that she would not have fired that person. Did you speak out against that, or are you just speaking out against, Donald Trump?
Well, I'm glad you asked me, Jason, because you can Google it. Yes, I did. I did here on Fox, on television, on my radio show, on my column, on Twitter, and all other social media. I, as a woman, a feminist, and a woman first before my party, I have to say I was appalled by this, absolutely appalled by this. I was very open and verbal about that, and I wasn't the only person on the left who felt that way, and not the only Democrat that's just a woman that felt that way.
So,
here's the
Leslie,
problem that I have when we talk about hypocrisy.
No. I'm glad you did that. And look, I want to speak out on this, too. I think if the White House knew about this, they've got a problem. And I think they have to also have an accounting. I think the chief of staff should get a list of everybody that's working in the White House who has passed a security background check, who has question marks, and who has failed. And I saw this as the oversight chairman when I was the oversight chairman. I saw part of this in the Obama administration. There were allegations. Again, I'm not trying to say that they're equal or anything else, but I'm just saying security clearances with the people in close proximity to the president is problematic. So, Leslie, I want to ask you, and then I promise I'll come over to you, Allie. But Leslie, when you have somebody who denies it and there is an accusation, what is the right thing to do? Do you let them keep their job? Do they have proximity to the president? Or do they, what should happen?
Well, first of all, you read my mind, because that's what I was about to say and to talk about. I have a problem here with the hypocrisy. Let me use as an example Senator Al Franken, shall we? Although we had a photo, there were other allegations by not only the woman in the photo, but others against the senator. The senator said, I didn't do this. These claims are false. Yet he stepped down, and there was pressure among his own party, and the president said negative things. He didn't say, well, he denies it. Roy Moore, the president says he denies it. Porter, the president says he denies it. And I feel that the president, Jason, made it worse with his remarks again today, not mentioning the women. What should be done in this climate where we have so many allegations of sexual abuse and sexual harassment, the Me Too movement? I think it would be wise for any administration, left or right, to have to remove these individuals, because it will be a stain on their administration.
Allie, what is the right thing to do in this situation? How do they do? If it's a he said, she said, there's a disagreement, what is the right thing to do?
Well, right now, the only thing that we can do is run on hypotheticals, and that's really all this is. Like Leslie said in the beginning, we don't know who knew what when. All we know is what the White House is telling us. And what the White House is telling us is that Mike Pence and President Trump only found out about these allegations this week. Apparently, General Kelly only knew the full extent of these allegations last week, and Porter submitted his resignation, and that resignation was accepted. And Mike Pence, on top of that, has even said, you know what, I think that we could have handled this a little bit more appropriately, which I took as taking responsibility. So at the end of the day, I think the right thing happened. Porter resigned. He's no longer in the White House, where I personally think that he belongs. Is not in the White House.
Thank you both. It is a subject that is very worthy. My personal take on it is, if there's any question about the people closest to the President of the United States, they're going to have to go take another temporary job until it gets sorted out. You don't need people with that sort of access to highly sensitive information, top secret information, and proximity to the president if there's any question marks. If you need a timeout, go sit outside and let the FBI help clean it up for you. But that's my take on it. I thank you both for joining us. Have a great weekend.